Hi, this is Emerald and welcome to the Diamond Net, and today I'm going to be talking about how to get out of body when trying to have an out-of-body experience. Alright, so there are two main stages to having an out-of-body experience. And I did a video about the first stage, which is sleep paralysis. So if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and search around for it. So you want to hit sleep paralysis first before you try any of the methods that I suggest in this video. Again, I have a lot of information in my other video about that, but long story short, you want to basically wake yourself up during the REM cycle of sleep, because that's the most active part of sleep. So it's the closest to awake you get throughout your entire night of sleep, and it happens 4 to 5 times in the night, so that when you're there, you're kind of in that Goldilocks zone between asleep and awake that you want to hit. Now, once you wake up into sleep paralysis, your body will be paralyzed and you'll hear a high-pitched buzzing noise in your ear, and kind of like there'll be a vibrational sensation throughout your whole body. That's when you know you're at the stage when you can try the methods that I'm going to suggest in this video for actually disconnecting from the body. So once you're actually in sleep paralysis and your body's paralyzed and you hear that high-pitched buzzing noise, what you're going to do from that point is you're going to try to intentionally speed up or slow down that vibrational resonance. And you'll find that there's kind of an intuitive inner movement that you can make to speed that up and slow it down. It's nothing that I can personally describe to you, but it's sort of like just an internal movement is the only way that I can describe it, and it feels like it's inside of the ear. So as you're speeding up and slowing down that vibration, you'll find that there's a particular point where that vibration seems to kind of equalize out and kind of come into a certain type of resonance. And it basically, the sound stabilizes a bit more and it's not quite so erratic. Once you get to that point, you know that it's about time for you to try to get out of your own body. Now, there are a couple of cautions that I want to mention before I go on to the techniques that you can use for actually getting out of body. All right, one thing is, if you're scared in any way, it's probably not a good idea to actually try to go out of body, because you might actually stumble into some scary experiences. What I find is that oftentimes my experiences when I go out of body tend to match my emotional experience. So if I'm feeling too excited, what might happen is I might get too anxious and like kind of almost like jammed up where I can't go anywhere and I can't do anything because I just get overexcited. So you want to make sure that you relax during this. And if you feel scared, you might actually see scary things. So my recommendation is, if you feel scared, go ahead, snap yourself out of sleep paralysis and just go back to sleep. Try it at another time when you're feeling a little bit better. Another thing is, if you have never had sleep paralysis before, the sensation of that vibration can be very intense, and it can be quite scary also that you can't move your body. And so I just want to assure you that you hit sleep paralysis every night anyway. It doesn't matter if you're awake or asleep during it. Most of the time you're going to be asleep, but it doesn't hurt you in any way. So if you feel like, oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to breathe, or I'm never going to be able to get out of this state, or I'm going to be paralyzed forever, don't even go down that path. Like that, that won't happen. Sleep paralysis is completely natural, only most of the time you're just not conscious of it. Alright, so now that I've explained kind of the precursors to the methods that I'm going to be telling you about, here are 6 techniques for getting out of body. Alright, method number 1, and this one's probably the most simple. So let's say that you're laying there, you've hit sleep paralysis, you hear that vibration, you get it to the point where that vibration has stabilized. Now it's time to try to get out of body. So the first method is just to sit up. Now, the issue here is that you don't want to accidentally sit up with your physical body, because then you're just going to snap yourself out of the sleep paralysis mode, because your body will then send a message to the brain like, hey, we're awake, stop paralyzing the body, get it out of sleep paralysis. So you don't want that to happen. So you want to be very, very confident when moving the astral body, as it's often called, and just try to intentionally sit up with that. But try not to sit up, because your abdominal muscles will, they'll move a little bit and then you'll be out of the sleep paralysis state. Now this one for me, I use sometimes, but this one causes me a lot of problems in actually going out of body, because the way that I snap myself out of the sleep paralysis state, like if I get scared or if I just don't want to do it or just want to go back to sleep, I move the small muscles in my abdomen. So it's very, very difficult, because those are the muscles that I engage for both sitting up and snapping myself out of it. So I often have trouble with this first method. All right, number 2, the rope method. Now, I've never tried this method personally, but basically the idea is that you visualize a rope hanging over your body, and then you visualize yourself climbing out of your body and to a different point above your body. So basically, same idea, you have to be very, very confident when doing this. You have to really believe in the visualization and put yourself in that mode. Now again, I've never tried this one, but it's one of the most popular methods and I hear it recommended a lot. So if you notice, confidence is a common theme here. You want to make sure that you're absolutely confident that you can move around outside of your body. It kind of reminds me of the scene in Harry Potter where he's first trying flu powder, and in order to get to Diagon Alley, then he has to actually say Diagon Alley very clearly, and he accidentally says diagonally, and then he messes up. And so basically, because he wasn't confident, he couldn't get to where he wanted to go. And I find that going out of body works in the same way. If you're not confident that you can move around and do what you want to do in an out of body experience, it's probably not going to work too well. So you have to really practice being confident. You might even want to say some positive affirmations like, I move easily, or I move effortlessly. All right, method number 3. Rotate around on the bed. And what I mean by this is, if you're laying like this on the bed, you just completely shift your body at a 90-degree angle. And I actually find this one pretty easy to do. So what I do is I shift around that way, because it's not a way that I could ever move my body in life. And so it's not something, there's not a lot of risk of me snapping myself out of the sleep paralysis by doing this. And then once you do that, you can just kind of sit up and then continue onward with whatever you want to do in your out-of-body experience. So this again has a sitting up type of thing going on with it, just like the first method, but you don't have to worry as much about waking yourself up or snapping yourself out of sleep paralysis. Also, when you do this rotational method, you can try to slide out of your body, like if you're going to just slide down off of the bed, and that's another good one. One problem that I've had with this, though, is that oftentimes I'll just end up being on the floor and not being able to move around, but I get some pretty cool visuals of underneath my bed sometimes, so that's pretty interesting. All right, number 4, and this one's probably my favorite method, because it's nothing that you can actually do in life, and so you don't have to worry as much about snapping yourself out of it. But you have to be incredibly confident in your ability to do this in order to have it be possible. So the method is to just project your consciousness to somewhere else in the room. So what you do is you're going to look with your eyes wherever you want to project yourself. So let's say if I were going to project myself to the corner of my room, I would be looking at it, and then I would basically say an affirmation to myself like, I'm going there now, or there now, or something where I can very confidently put myself over there. And you want to, and when I say to be confident, this might seem a little bit abstract, like how do I actually do that? How do I will myself somewhere if you're not really giving me a method? Like, kind of think about the confidence you have when you're walking across the floor or doing any other action. So if I'm going to do this action, it comes effortlessly. So you want to like really feel effortless. So tap into that feeling. Like, so how does that feel to move effortlessly? And that's kind of the confidence level that you want to have when you're actually doing anything out of body. All right, number 5, and this one I've been able to replicate twice, but it's nothing that I've heard on any of the resources that I've ever read about out-of-body experience or anything like that. But it was pretty interesting. During this particular time in my life, I was interested in Kundalini meditation and meditating on the chakras. And so just for fun, I decided one time in sleep paralysis that I would try to focus on my chakras. And so I brought my attention to my spine and I started to just go from the root chakra upward, and I was, just noticing things, just spending a couple seconds on each one. And what I found is that as I was doing this, I was effortlessly rising out of my body at about a 45-degree angle. And then a couple days later, I tried the same thing. The same thing happened where I was floating up out of my body. So if you want to try to float up out of your body, maybe try doing that. Again, I've never heard this method advocated anywhere, but it worked for me. So go ahead, give it a try. All right, and number 6, and this one relates a bit to the one before, just go ahead and float right out of your body. Now this one's a lot like projecting your consciousness across the room. The only difference is that you're focusing on the ceiling above you, and you're just trying to get into that space of confidence again and trying to bring yourself closer to the ceiling. And this way you just go straight up out of your body and you bypass any potential for muscle movements or anything like that. And so that one should work pretty well. I've had this happen just a few times. Most of the time I either project my consciousness, rotate my body, or just sit right up. Those are the 3 that I use most often. All right, once you're out of body, what you'll most likely notice is that the area around you is mostly similar to the way it is when you're in waking life. There might be a little bit different, things here and there. Maybe the alarm clock might read the wrong time, or, something of that nature. Maybe a book is on the table that wasn't there before. But it's very eerily similar to the point where you could absolutely mistake your out-of-body experience for your experience of waking life. So it's 99% similar. What I find best for having the most fruitful out-of-body experience and the least intimidating, least scary kind of out-of-body experience is actually to leave my room and to try to leave my house altogether. The best out-of-body experiences I've ever had have been ones where I've actually made it outside of my house, like to my street, or even to somewhere else completely other. Like one time I really enjoyed this out-of-body experience. I jumped into my door, like not through the door, but actually into the door itself. And everything went gray. And I set the intention to go to Paris. I don't know if I ended up in Paris or where, but basically all of a sudden this pedestrian walkway just started to kind of materialize in front of my eyes. And so I was able to explore different areas of the world. Now, whether or not that actually corresponds to a real reality, of course, we can never actually know that. But I do say that the experience is a lot more interesting if you actually leave the vicinity. I find that every time I've ever had a negative experience during an out-of-body experience has been where I've stayed in my room or in my house, and then I'm more likely to see something that makes me incredibly uncomfortable. So my recommendation is to go elsewhere, explore the world, explore the astral realm. But if you happen to see an entity or a person that you just get really bad feelings about, or they're scary, just don't interact with that thing. Try to ignore it, go away from it. Try to think about something positive, because they're very attracted to negativity, and your thoughts have an impact on whether or not they're there in your reality. Also, again, if you see anything scary when you're still in the sleep paralysis mode, I just recommend you just snap yourself out of it, go back to sleep, try again at a different time. This is one thing that you're going to want to experiment with, and there's no reason for you to put yourself through heck just to try to have an out-of-body experience. Alright, so that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead, click the like button below and go ahead and subscribe. Other than that, that's all I have for you today, and until next time, keep becoming more you.